A furious snowstorm ravaged the city, icy gusts roaring like wild beasts through shadowed alleys. Under the ghostly glow of broken streetlights, the sidewalk lay slick with ice, and in its midst, an 8-year-old girl, Emma, shivered in a threadbare coat, clutching a tattered cloth bag to her chest. 6 months of wandering alone had taught her to dread every storm, every frozen gust that cut through her thin layers. But tonight felt crueler than most, dark, endless, and utterly indifferent to her plight. What would become of her when morning finally came? Inside her bag lay one precious possession, a stale sandwich she'd saved from yesterday's meager rations. Its crust was tough, the filling lean, but it was all she had to face the night. Emma peered at it with hollow eyes, her stomach twisting in protest at the thought of eating its last morsel. Once consumed, she had nothing. No warmth, no food, no hope. Yet as she hesitated, the world shifted. From the swirling white, an old German shepherd emerged, its matted fur plastered to its gaunt frame. The dog's tired eyes bore into hers, pleading without a sound. Now Emma faced an impossible choice: nourish herself or feed the creature standing before her. Hunger clawed at Emma's belly like a ravenous animal, but the dog's silent sorrow pierced her heart. She lifted the sandwich, hands trembling, and tears welled in her eyes. "Here," she whispered, tearing the sandwich in half. For a moment, time seemed to hold its breath. The dog watched, head cocked, as if gauging her sincerity. Then, with careful steps, it took the offered piece and began to chew, savoring each bite. Emma exhaled, a fragile smile blooming despite the cold. If she gave this away, she would have nothing left. But she could not leave the dog to starve. With a shy nod, Emma held out the remaining half. "You can have it all," she murmured, voice barely more than a breath. The dog licked her trembling hand before gently accepting the rest. As it finished, Emma's chest swelled with warmth stranger than any coat could provide. For the first time in months, she did not feel alone. Unexpectedly, the dog stood, gave her a single wag of its tail, and looked back, as though saying, "Come on." Where were they going? Emma hesitated. But who else had stood by her tonight? Taking a shivery breath, she rose and followed. Their footprints side by side trailed through pristine snow. The name she would soon learn led confidently, pausing now and then to glance back, ensuring Emma kept up. The night was silent, except for the soft crunch of snow underfoot and the distant hum of the storm's fury. Though the alleyways felt threatening, Emma's fear began to ebb, replaced by a cautious trust in her four-legged guide. The journey took them to a narrow passage bathed in the weak glow of a flickering lamp. Laughter and clinking glass echoed from the darkness ahead. Emma froze as 3 men loitered near the wall, voices rough and leering. One spotted her and sneered. "Oh, look what we've got here, a little stray." "Need a place to crash, sweetheart." Panic ripped through Emma's chest and she stepped back. Before she could flee, Rex's ears quivered and he let loose a low, menacing growl that vibrated through the alley. The men sneered until they saw the dog's bared teeth. Then, grumbling, they decided a scrap wasn't worth the trouble and melted back into the night. Emma watched, breath caught in her throat, and when she turned to Rex, her fear gave way to gratitude. "You saved me," she whispered, kneeling to hug his thick neck. Rex leaned into her embrace, silent and steadfast. They pressed on, the storm's howl now distant, but the city's shadows stretching long and threatening. Suddenly, Rex halted, ears pinned forward, body coiled like a spring. A blood-curdling scream cracked the silence from a nearby alcove. Emma's heart pounded as she peered into the gloom. A middle-aged woman struggled with a burly thief, her purse wrenched from her grasp. Without hesitation, Rex lunged. In a blur, he pinned the mugger, his powerful jaws clamping onto the man's arm. The robber howled and kicked, but Rex held firm until, beaten and bloody, the thief dropped the purse and fled. Rex stooped, retrieved the purse gently in his mouth, and trotted back to the stunned woman. She trembled as she reclaimed her belongings, tears sparkling in her eyes. "You saved me," she stammered, reaching to stroke Rex's head. At her touch, she froze, eyes widening in recognition. "Rex?" She breathed. "Is that you?" Emma looked from the dog to the woman, confusion blooming. "What's happening?" she whispered. The woman's gaze darted to Emma, then back to Rex, her voice trembling. "A James Carter's dog, my dearest friend's dog." Moments later, Emma sat curled in the back seat of a car, clutching her coat as the engine roared through snow-laden streets. Rex rested his head in her lap, his steady breath a gentle lullaby against the storm's residue outside. In the front, the rescued woman, James Carter's friend, glanced at Emma through the mirror, eyes soft with wonder. How long have you known him? She asked softly. Emma thought of the sandwich shared and the silent bond formed just hours ago. She's today, she replied, voice hushed. The woman bit her lip, disbelief mingling with admiration. A homeless child who gave her last meal away. What hardship had she endured? The car climbed the snowy driveway of a modest house aglow with warm light. Snow clung to the porch roof and golden windows beckoned like lanterns of safety. Emma swallowed, a swirl of nerves tightening her throat. The woman knocked gently. From inside, James Carter appeared, middle-aged, hair touched with grey, eyes hollow with exhaustion. His greeting stalled as his gaze fell on Rex, standing loyally at his side. Time seemed to freeze. "Rex," he murmured, voice catching. Rex bounded forward, tail thrashing, and James dropped to his knees, arms snaking around his dog. "A good boy," he choked, pressing his cheek to Rex's fur, tears unbidden. The moment shifted as James sensed another presence. He looked up at Emma, small, hesitant, yet with eyes that mirrored his late daughter Lily's gentle spirit. His breath hitched, heart-pounding. "Are you?" he whispered, voice thick. The woman placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "This is Emma," she said, voice low. "She has nowhere else to go." Time held its breath as Emma's gaze met James's. In that fragile instant, grief and hope collided. James stood, hands trembling. "Would you like to stay here?" he asked, voice barely audible. Emma's eyes flicked to Rex, who nudged her hand in encouragement. With a shy nod, she breathed, "Yay, I would." At that, James exhaled, the weight in his chest easing for the first time in years. "Welcome home," he murmured, ushering her past the threshold into the warmth within. Inside, the scent of wood smoke and simple comfort wrapped around them like a blanket. Rex curled by the crackling fireplace, while Emma sank onto a plush armchair, eyes wide at the unfamiliar luxury of soft cushions and steady warmth. James paused in the kitchen doorway, offering her a small plate of hot soup. Emma flinched, unused to kindness so freely given. "Are you hungry?" he asked gently. She nodded, voice trembling. "Yes, please." As she tasted warmth and sustenance for the first time in ages, tears of relief blurred her vision. Days unfolded like a delicate bloom. Emma learned the feel of a proper bed beneath her, the sound of laughter echoing through once silent halls, and the comfort of knowing someone watched over her. Each dawn brought a simple breakfast at the kitchen table, not on cold concrete but inside, with plates that were never empty. Rex trailed her from room to room, pressing his head against her hand whenever doubt flickered in her eyes. And James, who had built walls around his heart, found himself silently rejoicing at Emma's timid smile, remembering the joy Lily once brought. One late afternoon, James chopped wood outside as the sun dipped low. He paused mid-swing and looked toward the window. There Emma stood, chin resting on her small hands, eyes reflecting the golden sunset. Beside her, Rex lay watchful, tail thumping softly against the floor. In that moment, James felt the old ache of loss gentling into something new, hope. He realized he could not change the past, but here, in this humble house, with this brave girl and his loyal dog, he could build a future. And in that glowing twilight, the promise of tomorrow felt as real and bright as the setting sun.